Today is 28th of September 2025. The day before yesterday, I mainly spoke about the manifestation, the second manifestation of mindfulness, and the immediate benefits that can be enjoyed through mindfulness. Now it is time to speak about the proximate cause of mindfulness. In fact, there are two proximate causes. The first is form and steadfast perception, something I have already explained. The second proximate cause is none other than the four foundation of mindfulness. That is to say that four foundation of mindfulness themselves are the nearest cause for the arising of mindfulness. Now you may wonder, what does that really mean? Or how can the four foundation of mindfulness be the proximate cause of mindfulness itself? This means that mindfulness itself is the cause for mindfulness. I repeat, the mindfulness itself is the cause for mindfulness. In other words, initial moment of mindfulness serve as the foundation for deeper and stronger mindfulness to arise in the future. Before mindfulness is established, it is the form and steadfast perception acts as its proximate cause. We recognize and note each and every moment, each and every object at the moment of its arising continuously and consistently through accurate aiming and sufficient effort. As perception becomes firm and steadfast, it permits mindfulness to arise. And once mindfulness has arisen, that mindfulness itself becomes the cause for another moment of mindfulness to arise. In this way, mindfulness begins with form perception and then sustains itself through its own momentum. This can be compared to the process of acquiring education. The lessons learned in the lower grades become the foundation for learning the lesson in the higher grades. In other words, the preceding moment of mindfulness becomes the proximate cause for the mindfulness for the rising of succeeding moment of mindfulness. Just as one step supports the next in walking, one moment of mindfulness supports the next in meditation. So the mindfulness you develop yesterday becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop today. The mindfulness you develop today becomes the cause for the mindfulness you will develop tomorrow. And the mindfulness you cultivate tomorrow will serve as the cause for the mindfulness of the day after tomorrow. Or the mindfulness you develop in the morning becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop in the afternoon. The mindfulness you develop in the afternoon becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop in the evening. In the same way, the mindfulness you develop during the sitting meditation becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop during walking meditation. And again, the mindfulness you develop while walking becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop during sitting meditation. To speak more precisely, the mindfulness you develop during the observation of the rising of the abdomen becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop during the observation of falling. I repeat this. The mindfulness you develop during the observation of the rising of the abdomen becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop during the observation of falling. Then the mindfulness during the falling becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop during the second rising. In this way, each moment of mindfulness builds upon the previous one. Eventually, these moments of mindfulness also become the cause for the mindfulness you apply to observe secondary objects such as sensation, thoughts, or sounds that arise. In fact, this is something very obvious in actual practice. Once you establish mindfulness on the primary object, you naturally become capable of developing mindfulness on the secondary objects as well. Similarly, in walking meditation, the mindfulness you develop during the observation of the first step becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop during the second step. The mindfulness during the second step supports and conditions the mindfulness of the third step, and so on. Each mindful step strengthens the continuity of awareness step by step. In this way, mindfulness deepens not only across days and postures, but even from one breath to the next, one step to the next, one object to the next. I repeat this, mindfulness deepens not only across days and postures, but even from one breath to the next, one step to the next, one object to the next. The mindfulness you develop during the first activity, this is about mm, daily activities. The mindfulness you develop during the first activity becomes the cause for the mindfulness you develop during the second. Then the mindfulness in the second activity supports the mindfulness in the third, and so on throughout the day. For example, mindfully brushing your teeth can support mindfulness while you wash face. Mindfulness while washing supports while dressing. Dressing supports the mindfulness while walking to your next stops, and so on. Every activity becomes a platform for mindfulness, and every moment of mindfulness becomes the proximate cause for the next, just like links in an unbroken chain. In this way, from breath to breath, step to step, talks to talks, mindfulness flows, strengthens, and sustains itself. The preceding moment of mindfulness is not just a cause for the arising of the second succeeding moment. It also helps to sustain it, strengthen it. Each moment of mindfulness adds stability, clarity, and momentum to the next, making it easier for mindfulness to continue and deepen. In this way, mindfulness does not arise in isolation, it grows, it builds, and it reinforces itself moment after moment. This is why we place such strong emphasis on the unbroken continuity of mindfulness, because each moment of mindfulness doesn't just arise and pass away, it supports, sustains, and strengthens the next. Again, this principle of continuity is not just about mindfulness. It also applies to effort, to concentration, to wisdom, to faith, in fact, to all wholesome mental qualities. Just as one moment of mindfulness supports the next, one moment of right effort strengthens the next. One moment of concentration deepens the next. One moment of faith nourishes the next, and the wisdom that arises now prepares the ground for deeper wisdom in the future. So in this way, that this principle of continuity is not just about mindfulness, it also applies to effort, to concentration, to faith, to wisdom, to all wholesome mental activities. So in this way, the path is built moment by moment, quantity by quality, wholesome mental states reinforce one another and grow stronger through continuity. As a result, both the quantity and quality of armies of wholesomeness increase, becoming strong enough to conquer the armies of unwholesomeness. Remember, you need both quantity and quality. Neither of these alone is sufficient to defeat the unwholesomeness forces. Without enough soldiers, the army fails. Without strong, skilled soldiers, it also fails. But with both, success is possible. This is how the practice leads to victory through steady, continuous cultivation of wholesomeness. If these wholesome mental qualities are not continuous, they will not grow, they will not become stronger, and they will not become mature. Just like a plant cannot thrive without regular watering or cultivation, wholesome states like mindfulness, effort, concentration, faith, wisdom need steady, continuous nourishment to develop fully. Without continuity, the they remain. Without continuity, they can't develop fully. Without continuity, they remain weak, shallow, and easily overpowered by defilements. As I mentioned earlier, when you are pursuing an education, if you don't attend classes regularly and consistently, your learning becomes weak and disconnected. Even if you pass grade 1, if you don't move to grade 2 without delay, or if you skip several years, your understanding won't develop properly. In fact, the more time you skip, the harder it becomes to regain momentum and strengthen your education. In the same way, spiritual qualities like mindfulness, effort, concentration, faith, and wisdom cannot grow if they are practiced only occasionally or in a scattered way without consistency. They remain fragile and easily fade away. Now you may wonder, why do wholesome mental qualities become weak, fragile, and easily fade away? Because of the interruption caused by defilements. Because of the interruption caused by defilements. Whenever there is a gap, a break in mindfulness, effort, or concentration, unwholesome mental states naturally slip in. The mind does not remain neutral. If you fail to develop wholesome qualities, unwholesome ones will arise and occupy the space. Craving, aversion, delusion, restlessness, laziness. They don't wait for your invitation. They don't wait for your invitation. They take advantage of every unguarded moment. Unguarded moment. That's why we emphasize continuous mindfulness and uninterrupted effort to protect the mind and to give wholesome qualities the chance to grow strong and mature. So now let's talk about how continuous mindfulness to be cultivated. For sitting meditation, as I have already mentioned, you should begin observing from the very first rising and falling of abdomen, right from the moment you close your eyes, from the first rising to the second, from the second to the third, and the third to the fourth, and so on. If mental objects or bodily sensations become predominant, observe them mindfully and then return to abdomen to continue noting the rising and falling continuously and consistently, as continuously and consistently as possible. Try your best to maintain this continuity without breaks. Then, when the session is over and you want to stop the observation, or open your eyes. First, note the intention. So I mentioned the two intentions. One to stop the observation or one to open your eyes. First, note the intention, wanting to stop or wanting to open the eyes. Note this intention through 2 or 3 times. You have to note minimum 2 or 3 times. Then slowly and mindfully begin to open your eyes while mentally labeling opening, opening. If you observe carefully at this stage, you may notice many subtle experiences like stickiness, heaviness of eyelids or hardness, ease in opening the eyes, difficulty in opening the eyes, delay or no delay at all. Sometimes both eyes may open together. On other times, one may open slightly before the other, and so on. So this kind of close, continuous observation, even in seemingly small or ordinary action, sharpen mindfulness, deepens insight, and trains the mind to remain steady and aware throughout all situations. So, whenever you are about to open your eyes, so try to observe in this way, try to note the intention to stop the observation or intention to open the eyes, then open slowly and mindfully. While opening, mental labeling, label mentally as opening, opening, and observe with true mindfulness so that you may experience the experiences that I have just mentioned. After opening the eyes, what is the next object to observe? Almost all meditators experience a break in mindfulness at this point. Almost all the meditators experience a break in mindfulness at this moment. They may start looking around, relax for a while, or become caught up in thinking. But in fact, as soon as you open your eyes, you should immediately note looking, seeing, looking, seeing. Then, without delay, continue observing your action. Don't delay at that moment. After noting, looking, seeing, continue observing your action. For example, if you want to switch your hands, first note wanting to switch, wanting to switch. Be careful not to move your hands or legs at the same time as opening your eyes. That is also we may forget to do generally when we open our eyes. Same time we may move our hands or legs. So be careful not to move your hands or the legs at the same time as opening your eyes. Then mindfully switch your hands one after the other, noting each movement. Do same when moving your legs. Next, what do you do if you are going to bow? Note as wanting to bow down, and then bowing. Here too, there are many objects to observe, like lifting the hands to bring the palms together, placing the palms together, which may include the contact between them, lowering the hands, lowering the head, placing the hands and head on the ground, then raising the head, raising the hands again, and so on. Each movement can be clearly noted with mindfulness. Then, if you are about to stand up, note wanting to stand up, and then slowly stand up, observing sensations such as heaviness, tightness, or warmth in the body. Once standing, if you adjust your clothes, note adjusting. If you turn, note turning. If you hold your hands together, then note holding. In this way, each and every moment should be clearly noted without rushing or skipping. You should not rush or skip. Here I mention many intention minds to observe here, because I believe it is now the right time to start noting them, as it has already been 1 month since the beginning of your retreat. I also believe some meditators have already been noting them. So who haven't yet, they should begin to note the intention minds as possible as they can. Then when you are about to begin your step, not wanting to step, then observe each step with mindfulness from the very moment your walking meditation begins. From that very moment your walking meditation begins, however, many meditators don't consider these early steps as part of walking meditation. They assume that walking meditation only starts when they arrive their designated walking path. They assume that walking meditation only starts when they arrive their designated walking path. In truth, every steps every step counts. Every step counts, whether you are walking inside the meditation hall or on your way to the walking path, to the dining hall, to washroom, or back to your room. So every step counts. In walking meditation, observe each step mindfully from the first step to the second to the third to the fourth, and so on. When you reach the end of the walking lane, make sure to observe standing, wanting to turn, and turning. At times, meditators do not observe them with true mindfulness. They don't observe deeply while standing, while noting intention to turn, turning, standing again. So make sure that you observe with true mindfulness. Again, many meditators miss observing the moment of the many meditators miss observing the movements of the hands, such as changing their position during the walking meditation. While walking, at times they change the position of their hands, so they forget to observe, so such as changing the position, stretching an itch, then adjusting clothing, touching the face, or placing hands together, and so on. In fact, all of these bodily movements that should be noted clearly and mindfully, closely and mindfully, is about non-forgetfulness of mindfulness. The role of mindfulness, which we have already discussed, so it's about non-forgetfulness of mindfulness. Similarly, if you drink water or go for washing, try to note all activities without missing anything or being forgetful. Again, while eating, if you observe all the activities mindfully, then the mindfulness of scooping becomes the cause for the mindfulness of lifting your hand. The mindfulness of lifting leads to the mindfulness of putting into the mouth, putting the food into the mouth. That leads to the mindfulness of dropping your hand. Mindfulness of dropping becomes the cause for mindfulness of chewing. And the mindfulness of the force chew becomes the cause for the second to the third to the fourth, and so on. Then the mindfulness of chewing becomes the cause for the mindfulness of swallowing, In the same way, the mindfulness of the first lump of food becomes the cause for the mindfulness of the second lump of food, then the second to the third, and so on. If you observe in this way, your mindfulness deepens and you may begin to experience many things. Especially while chewing, you may notice different textures, hardness, roughness, softness, warmth, coolness, and various flavors such as sweetness, saltiness, spiciness, or bitterness. Not only that, but different mental states may arise in relation to these flavors, liking or disliking, wanting to eat more or not wanting to eat more, greed, irritation, or even a sudden desire to stop eating. So at times, a sudden desire to stop eating may be noticed. All of these are important objects to observe with mindfulness. By observing these reactions clearly, you begin to see how sensations give rise to craving and aversion, and how mindfulness interrupts that process, leading to insight. In this way, throughout the day, you should try your best to observe each and every activity closely and carefully. You should make a firm commitment with strong determination, great willingness, and wholehearted effort. If you give your best, you will be successful. All of these observations during the day will support your mindfulness at the end of the day when you go to sleep. Even then, continue observing sitting on the bed, lying down, stretching your legs, adjusting your body, covering your body with blankets, and then noting the rising and falling of the abdomen until the moment you are just about to fall asleep. In fact, a hardworking meditator becomes capable of noticing the very last moment, the very last moment, the moment just before falling asleep. I repeat, a hardworking meditator becomes capable of noticing the very last moment, the moment just before falling asleep. And again, that mindfulness again becomes the cause for the mindfulness of the next day again. Note the process of waking, noticing that you are waking up, noting the intention to open the eyes, and then opening, and so on. Over time, a hard-working meditator may even become capable of observing the intention to wake up even before any moment or opening of the eyes. This one also I would like to repeat again. A hard-working meditator may even become capable of observing the intention to wake up even before any movement or opening of the eyes. So here the intention to wake up does not refer to the moment after opening the eyes, not that one, but refer to the subtle mental intention that arises even before any movement, before the eyes open or before the body shifts. Such meditators may often notice automatically the bodily movements or shifts that occur during sleep without any deliberate effort to absorb them. So this is the power of deep-rooted mindfulness. So this is the power of the deep-rooted mindfulness, and to develop such powerful mindfulness, meditators should observe continuously. Unbroken continuity is required. Without unbroken continuity, such a powerful mindfulness cannot be developed. So, from the very moment of the day, first moment of the day, until the up to the last moment of the day, yogis, meditators should try to deepen the mindfulness with the great determination, with great willingness. Great willingness is required, strong determination is needed, and commitment, effort is required. If you give your best, then as I have just explain how a good meditator become capable of observing all the activities, not all the objects, not only during sitting or walking, but during the daily activities as well. So all the meditators should try their best to develop such powerful mindfulness, and then such powerful mindfulness will bring a strong protection, as we have discussed last time. Then your mind becomes well protected, then blocking, defense, then a sense of safety, freedom, calm and peace, rapture and mental comfort, also known as mental bliss, can be enjoyed each and every moment. So I would like to urge all the meditators to give your best, not only trying during sitting and walking, but to try in day-to-day activities as well. And by giving your best, may you be able to develop a powerful mindfulness which can protect your mind, defense, block, give you a sense of safety and freedom from defilements, gives rise to rapture, mental bliss, and peace and calm. May you be able to enjoy all these benefits at once.